you look. So today we are going to walk through one of the most talked about conspiracy theories in music. Some of them have never really have been explained, and by the end of this video, you might be asking yourself some questions you did not have before. Let us start with one of the strongest one. Most people have heard theories about Taylor Swift. Everything from her supposedly influencing the outcomes of major sporting events, the people believing she practiced some form of witchcraft. But the theory that gets the most attention, and honestly the hardest one of these simply dismissed, is the physical resemblance between her and a real woman named Zena Levy. Zena Levy is the daughter of the man who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. She was, by her own account, the first person in history to receive formal Satanic baptism. She eventually left the church in 1990, and she was also, interestingly enough, a stringer herself. Now, nobody is saying these are the same person. Zena is still alive today, but some people believe that the ritual which was performed and that Taylor essentially represents the continuation of that energy into a new generation. The theory gets even more specific when you consider that Taylor was born in 1989 and Zena stepped away from the church in 1990. The timing line up is in a way that strange people find hard to ignore. Add to that these reports from fans who attended Taylor concerts and described feeling like they could not fully example what happening during the show. Like the experience was almost dreamlike. Now, does any of this prove anything? No. Clone theories pop up about a different celebrity almost every year, but the physical resembling between Zena and a young Taylor Swift is genuinely striking, and that part is hard to explain away. The second theory has been around for a very long time, and you have almost certainly seen the symbol of at the center of it, the all-seeing eye. It's showing up on album covers, in music videos, at major award shows. At a strange point, it's starting feeling like you could not look anywhere in popular music without seeing. This symbol actually goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, where it was known as the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection. Later, when the United States was founded, a version of this symbol was placed on a dollar bill, where it still sits today. In 1976, the same year of the United States declared independence, a secret society was being established in Europe called the Order of Illuminati. They used a similar symbol, a dot inside a circle resembling a mysterious all-seeing eye, an unseen power watching over everything. Over time, people began connecting this symbol to a hidden group of extremely powerful individuals, people who illegally use of entertainers, politicians, and media figures to control public opinion and culture from the shadows. Hip-hop artists began talking about it openly decades ago, and some who spoke out about it publicly met with unfortunate and unexposed ends shortly after. Whether that is coincidence or not, the obsession with this symbol of the music industry remains one of the most documented and consistently strange patterns that keeps coming up with no matter how many years pass. The third theory is one of the oldest in the history of music itself, the idea that the devil lived inside strange music. Your grandparents thought Elvis moving his hips was immortal. Your parents may remember people playing rock albums backward, trying to find hidden message buried in recordings. Preachers in the 1970s and 1980s once entitled the congregation about strange musicians, claiming their music opened door to dark spiritual forces. Back then, artists at least tried to keep their imagery somewhat subtle. It was taboo, and that taboo actually had to sell records. Forbidden things have always attracted attention, but somewhere along the way, this completely disappeared entirely. Some of the most watched award show performances in recent memory have featured openly demonic imagery, costume set design, Thomas that would have been considered completely unacceptable on national television a generation ago. Not only are these performances shown without any pushback, they are celebrated. Some artists have spoke openly in interviews about feeling like they made a kind of deal in their success, whether they mean that literally as a way of describing a compromise that made with themselves. The language they use is strangely consistent. A few of them have solid in plain terms. I sold my soul and I got what I asked for. Maybe they are speaking in metaphor. Maybe they are being completely honest. Either way, the pattern of language across so many different artists speaking independently of each other is something that is hard to simply set aside. The fourth theory is probably one of the most people have at least heard of, the 27 Club. Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Joplin, Jimmy Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, five of the most iconic musicians in history, all got at exactly the same age, 27. The story actually goes back much further than most people realize, all the way to a boss musician named Robert Johnson in the early 90s. The legend around Robert Johnson that he met somehow at a crossroads late at the night and made a deal for extraordinary musical talent. Almost overnight, people who had known him for years said he returned from a mysterious periods away and he was suddenly playing the guitar in a way that nobody around him could understand or explain. He died at 27. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the pattern of gifted musician dying in that specific age has been going on for over a century, and it shows no signs of stopping. And then there are the individual cases that do not fit neatly into the any category, but still leave mysterious questions unanswered. Michael Jackson spent the last years of his life telling people close to him that someone was trying to get to him. His sister has spoken publicly about him, saying it had to do with music publishing rights, that powerful people wanted what he owned, and that he believed his life was in danger. His doctor was convicted in connection with his death, but some people who loved him have never fully accepted that the full story was ever told. Prince died unexpectedly at the age of 57. Initially, there was a confusion about the cause. He had been dealing with chronic pain. But when investigators examined the medication found at his home, they discovered something deeply troubling. The pills were counterfeit. They looked legitimate, but they contained fentanyl instead of the medication printed on the label. Counterfeit pills laced with one of the most dangerous substances on earth, found in the home of one of the greatest musicians who ever lived. How those pills got there was never fully explained to the public. Now, here is the honest truth about all of this. Fame brings enormous pressure. It brings access to drugs and dangerous people. Accidents happen. Tragedies happen. Not everything dark that occurs in the music industry is the result of some hidden pain. But what keeps people talking, what keeps these theories alive decades after decades is the timing. So many of these deaths happen right before an artist it was about to reach a new level, or right when they were speaking out against the industry, or right in the middle of a legal fight over their own music and money. At some point, the pattern becomes impossible to completely ignore. We may never know for a certain what is really going on behind the closed doors of the most powerful place in the music business, but one thing is clear: where there is this much money and this much power, this is almost always something worth questioning. Let me walk you through something fun today, and we are going to rank singers into 7 different levels, from the very bottom all the way to the rare few who are simply gifted in a way most of us will never understand. Some names are going to surprise you, some you might disagree with completely. That is a part of the fun. So let us continue it. Level 1. Tone deaf. These are the people who honestly should not be singing at all. You are playing their music at a wedding. You are not putting it on your late night playlist. If you are listening to it, you are probably not telling anyone. This is a level where someone is clearly just having fun, and everyone around them plays along and laughs together. It might turn to an internet joke for a while, but that is about as far as it goes. This level also includes some rappers who lean heavily on vocal effects. Not the one who actually know how to use those tools well, but the one who seem to have the settings turned up for too high. You can still enjoy the song, you are just listening for the beat and the energy, not the singing itself. A lot of well-known influencer reality television personalities who tried music later in their career also land here. The good news is most people at the level already know it. They are simply having fun with it. It is the next level where the singing start getting more interesting. Level 2. Studio magic. These are the singers who can genuinely hold a note. There is a real talent there, but they lean heavily on the recording studio to sound their best. The engineers, the pitch corrections, the layering, a live performance become a bit of a gamble. This is where you will often find many former child stars from popular kids television networks who later moved into the music. They have big fan bases, catchy song. They sound great on a finished track, but live performance can sometimes be a little shaky. This level also includes a second wave of social media personalities who tried turning their online fame into music careers, and few well-known rappers who do have some natural singing ability, but it can come across a little unstable without some studio help behind it. Level 3, not bad. Singing ability, really it's a spectrum, and everyone at the level can generally sing and sounds good, with or without studio help. But they may have had a rough live performance movement that followed them for years, or their natural style is fairly simple, making it hard to know their full range. This level includes a lot of mainstream pop singers as well as a few country stars, and yes, even some major names that people love to debate. One of the most argued about voices in the last 30 years definitely belongs in the level. So she has certain moments where her controls at tone sounded genuinely excellent, and other moments that left people a little confused when she takes her time and settle into a song. You can really hear the talent underneath it all. There are also a few legendary performances at award shows that frankly did not go very well, even though the singers behind them is talented overall. A performance that goes wrong does not always reflect the real skills level of the artist. This level also includes a handful of well-known rappers with genuinely impressive natural voices, capable of singing without much studio help if they wanted to. Level 4. Level 4 is great. This is probably the wildest level across every genre. These artists have strong tone and real control. You never have to worry about how to they well sound live. They know their voices, their strengths, and how to work with them. In pop music, this is where you find some of the most beloved voices around. Some and delicate voices, big and powerful ones. The common thread here is the real control and tone, whether the delivery style is quiet or bold. This is also where the most major country artists belongs. Country music is one of these genres where it is very hard to hide behind the studio production. The voices had to genuinely carry the story. You simply cannot fake your way through the emotional country band. A lot of rock bands, boy bands, and girls group land here too. Even if one member of a group is slightly weaker than the rest, the group as a whole stays strong because they hold each other accountable, and harmony singing requires everyone to be at least solid. This level is also where mainstream R&B truly shines, full of beautiful, emotionally rich voices that are so easy to fall in love with even if they are not necessarily once in a generational talents. Level 5 is elite. Now we are talking about the upper tier, the kind of singers other singers study and try to learn from. Many of them have been singing since they were toddlers, often coming up through church, choirs, or musical theaters. This level includes some of the most respected names in R&B history, known for our vocal techniques and are still being studied and copied by newer artists today. It also includes a few country legends whose voices feel completely effortless, almost like silk. This is where you will also find some legendary names whose voices become foundational influences for an entire generation of artists that came after them, along with some of the most iconic pop voices of the last several decades. And here is a name that often sparks a lot of debates. Many people consider this artist the single greatest entertainer of all the time overall, but purely judging vocal ability alone, level 5 still feels like the right place. The vocal range on display is incredible, capable of shifting from soft and gentle to powerful and intense with the same carrier, almost like two completely different voices belonging to one person. Level 6. Powerhouse. These are the true vocal athletes. The belters, the one whose voices step you completely in your trap. These voices are honestly almost too powerful for casual listening. You are not necessarily paying them as a party, you are sitting quietly and simply absorbing them. Gospel music produces on enormous numbers of singers at this level. If you grew up around a church choir, you already know there are people singing in their choir right now who could outstanding most of the mainstream music industry without anyone realizing it. Mainstream music does have a few names that really belong here too, including a couple of incredible voices that came out of televoice singing competitions and absolutely stunned audience with raw emotional power. This level also includes the women of often remembered as the queen of the rock and roll, whose voices carried real power and soul across an entire lifetime of performing. And here is the controversial one. Many people will want a certain modern pop powerhouse placed at the very top level, but judging by raw vocal ability alone, level 6 still feels accurate, even though she is an incredible all-around performer, capable of singing, dancing, and commanding a stage all at once. Level 7. Gotye. This is the very top, the raisest level of all time. These are the generational voices, the ones whose sounds is so unique you will never confuse them with anyone else, even for a second. This level includes the women almost universally known as the greatest singers of all time, the voice that nearly every major vocalist today still studies and accompanies themselves to. It also includes the Queen of Soul, a woman who, even decades into her career, who still capable of outstanding singers half her age, with a voice carrying being both incredible range and unmistakable depth. One of the male side, there is a voice often considered the male equivalent of the some greatness, smooth, rich, and instantly recognizable, capable of moving comfortably between deep and soulful tones and soaring high notes. This level also includes the woman known for her 5-octave range and signature whistle tone. One of the very few artists to even share a duet with the woman widely considered the greatest vocalist of all time. And finally, this is the voice forever considered one of the most iconic film soundtracks in a movie history. Her power may came through differently than some of the more accurately R&B singer on the list, but the precision and emotional delivery set her completely apart. It really proves something important about singing in general. Two people can sing the exact same notes and still sounds completely different because it's never just about the notes themselves. It is about how you deliver them. So there you have it. 7 levels from the most casual fun to the rarest natural gifts in this entire music industry. Let them know who you think I got wrong and who you think deserve or move up or down a level. Let me tell you a story that should have ended quietly, and instead it has shaken the trust of entire country. If the official version had its way, Jeffrey Epstein would simply be embarrassed as a strange banker who made his money in mysterious ways, kept money with some powerful friends, and was eventually found guilty of nothing more poor judgment. No client list, no accomplices, just one man acting completely alone. That is the story some people wanted us to believe. But the truth is far different. And to understanding how something this mysterious was allowed to happen for so long, we have to go back to the very beginning. Long before the private Island, long before the fortune, back to when nobody knew his name at all. Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn in 1953 to two ordinary working class parents, his mother working as a teacher assistant, his father worked as a city gardener. People who knew the family described them as a humble, gentle, completely normal. Jeffrey himself was remembered as a quiet, smart kid who liked math. He graduated high school 2 years early and attended a small college in Manhattan that offered him free tuition. He studied math, transferred to another university, and eventually left without ever earning a degree. Despite that, within 2 months, he had landed a job teaching math at one of the most prestigious private schools in Manhattan, a school for children of the city's wealthiest families. As a teacher, by most accounts, he was not good one. He pushed the boundaries of the dress code. He developed a reputation for being far too familiar with the female students, even reportedly showing up at their parties. Eventually, he was let go for poor performance. But here is where things take a strange turn. Just months after losing that teaching job, Epstein was hired one of the biggest investment banks in the country. Thanks entirely to a connection made through wealthy parents he had impressed while teaching. Within 4 years, with no college degree and no formal financial training, he had promoted all the way up to limited partner. Then just a year later, he was asked to leave during investigation into insider trading at the firm. Throughout the rest of the 1980s, Epstein bounced between strange ventures, one of which turned out to be one of the largest financial fraud schemes in American history. The company he was working for had raised enormous sums of money from investors under false promises, spending it on private jets and luxury homes instead. When it all collapsed, his business partner went to prison for nearly 20 years. Epstein himself was never charged with anything. Around this same period, multiple people who know him recalled him suggestion he had worked for an intelligence agency at some point. Though he never said which one, he was later found carried fake passport with stamps from the Middle East. None of this fits together in a simple, sensible way, and it never has. By the late 1980s, Epstein launched his own private wealth management company, announcing he would only work with the clients worth over $1 billion. His very first client was a retail billionaire who built some of the biggest shopping brands in American malls, including a well-known lingerie company. That billionaires handed Epstein almost complete control over his personal fortune, despite many people around him questioning why someone with so little financial background would be trusted with that much money and responsibility. From that point forward, Epstein's life transferred completely. He was suddenly flying around the world in a private jet, acquiring massive properties, yet somehow his name never appeared on any public financial filings. No client list, no office, no real explanation, but to everyone around him, he looked like a man who owned the world. He built a connection with royalty, world leaders, and celebrities. He purchased a private island in the Caribbean, where he would host elaborate gatherings. And through a relationship with the daughter of a controversial international businessman with deep ties to overseas intelligence networks, Epstein gained access to an even wider circle of powerful people. In 2003, A journalist set out to write a profile uncovering exactly who Jeffrey Epstein really was. He research suggested his entire person as a brilliant investor was mostly fabricated, built largely on money from that earlier fraud scheme rather than any real investment genius. But there was something far more serious she uncovered during this same investigation. Two sisters came forward, claiming Epstein had assaulted them years earlier. One of them, while still a minor. The accusations were originally included in her articles. Then Epstein began showing up at the magazine offices, pressuring them to remove any mention of these women that same week. Threatening items were left at the home of the magazine editor. The accusation never made it into the final published place. In the years that followed, Epstein worked hard to build a new public image, this time as a genius supporter of science. He donated millions to major universities and hosted dinners with some of the most respected scientists and thinkers in the world. Some considered him brilliant. Others who spent time with him described him as a restless, shallow, and only interested in showing off his wealth. Frequently steering conversation back to the inappropriate comments about young women, that part of his life was never really hidden. It had particularly become a running joke among the people closest to him. In 2005, the truth finally started catching him with him. A mother in Florida contacted police after learning her young teenage daughter had been paid to visit Epstein Mansion. What police discovered over the following years was deeply disturbing. A network involving dozens of underage from the local area recruited to visit him home for abuse disguised as a message apartments. Investigators found hidden cameras throughout the house and the evidence suggesting girl had been bought in from other countries as well. In 2006, Epstein was finally arrested. He pleaded guilty to state charges and received an 18-month sentence. What happened next should never been allowed. He served only 13 months, much of its work release program that let him leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He was given his own private section of the facility. He created a fake non-profit organization simply so he would have somewhere to claim he was working during his daily release. After his release, his social circle never abandoned him. If anything, he became even more accepted. He hosted dinners with well-known media personalities. He threw a birthday parties for British royalty. Several friends publicly defended him. It would take more than decades, and the works of an investigators, journalist publishing a major newspaper series in 2018. Before the full scope of what had actually happened came to light, that investigation revealed that the original federal case against Epstein had identical more than 80 potential victims between the ages of the 13 and 18, facing federal charges that could have sent him to prison for decades, possibly for life. Instead,